Good day, everyone. We are here at the Walter J Studios in Los Angeles, California, coming to you with our program LA Sunshine. Every beautiful Sunday, we are coming to your home on Fin TV Los Angeles with LA Sunshine. Our program works with the motive of bringing extraordinary characters either from Sri Lanka or from our own community here to our studio and interviewing them so we can enhance your knowledge while we learn more about them. Today we are honored to have Dr. Sarath Gunatilake, Emeritus Professor, California State University, Long Beach, and he's also American Board Certified Occupational and Family Medicine Physician. He was also the former medical director of Metropolitan State Hospital in Norwalk, California. He has served as a short-term consultant for many international organizations, including the World Bank, World Health Organization, United States Agency for International Development, and many more other organizations. And he has also served in more than 12 countries around the world. Doctor, we warmly welcome you to our studios at the Walter J Towers here in Los Angeles. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Doctor. So, before we get started, I would actually like to touch a little bit on your childhood and get to know you a little bit while we are here at our studio.
I'm delighted to be here. I was born in a small village called Vaturugama, about 25 miles away from Colombo.
Okay.
And it's a typical rural village. We are with lush vegetation. There was a river running across one end of the village, and then at the other end there were a couple of boutiques, what we call the Kadamandia.
Oh, wow.
And these two were connected. Of course, there was a untarred, dusty road that ran across the village, and there was no running water there was no electricity, and I went to the village school for the first 5 years, and so without electricity we had to study with the aid of a kerosene lamp.
Okay.
And after my parents were school teachers. My father was a principal, my mother was a teacher, and after the first 5 years in the village school, I had the opportunity of entering Royal College. Now that year they only admitted 39 students from outside, and most of the students to Royal College that year in 1960.
So how did you manage to get to Royal College? Did you pass the
Yeah,
examinations?
there was an entrance exam,
Okay.
and with that entrance exam they took only 39 students.
Okay.
And the rest of the students came from the Royal Primary, and some of these students included the former President Ranil Wickramasinghe, former Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena, Mr. Malik Samaravikrama, who was a former minister, and Mr. Anura Bandaranaike. So they were all my classmates.
Oh,
and
how wonderful.
I, being far away from Colombo, I could not commute to Colombo, and I was boarded in the Royal College hostel. So I can distinctly remember in the Royal College hostel, I was in the dorm, and there were two other people. The person on my right was former High Court Judge Sarath, who was unfortunately assassinated some time ago, and then on my left hand side was Mr. Lalit Veeratunga, who happened to be the secretary to the former president.
Oh,
So, for me, the first year was like a fish out of water.
right.
My English was very poor, and I still remember that there were 7 textbooks for English, and I still remember some of those books, and I had a really hard time learning English and continuing the rest of my education in English. But I can tell you an incident here.
Right. With your perseverance, obviously,
Right.
you made
And
it. So-
I learned, it was so difficult, but on the other hand, I learned English so well. When I came here to United States I was interviewed for a professorship at California State University. The then president was the former congressman, Dr. Stephen Horn. And I finished all the interviews, and the final interview was with Steve Horn, and he asked me, "How good is your English?"
Oh,
I just looked straight into his eyes and told him, "Sir, my English is better than, I can read, write and speak English better than 99% of your countrymen." That was the only question he asked, and I got the job. Anyway, that was Royal College, and I really enjoyed my school days.
right.
Particularly, I got involved in debating. I can still remember some of the people, some of the students that I debated against in other schools. One was the Sumana Nellampitiya, the famous radio personality, and there were others, many others who are still in the field of politics.
Okay.
And so anyway, I also excelled in drama,
Right.
and that is because we had Mr. Upali Attanayaka, the famous of the Subha Sahayasa fame, who was our drama teacher, and we produced the first Sinhalese play at Royal College and won the second place in the inter-school drama competition. So from Royal College, then in 1969, I entered the medical school, the Colombo Medical Faculty of the Colombo University, and then of course, I did fairly well and graduated with second class honors, and then became a lecturer in the medical faculty itself.
Okay.
Later on, after completing my internship in gynecology obstetrics and internal medicine. And the people who I associated as faculty members in the medical faculty as my colleagues now were people like Professor Carlo Fonseca, who he and I became very close friends, and then Professor Nandadasa Kodagoda, Professor N.D.W. Lionel, and Professor Kotegoda. And these are individuals who had contributed a lot in making me who I am
you are
today.
Right. So listening to you, I mean, obviously you take me back in time, and it is simply amazing to hear your, childhood experiences. And that is something that nowadays the youngsters don't get to experience that, because we grow up with technology and they do not have that feel and the vibe in the villages, what you have experienced in Sri Lanka. So coming from Sri Lanka to here, obviously you have been exposed to a completely different, variation, a different world altogether. But as you were mentioning that you grew up with a lot of elites from the Sri Lankan, the communities back home, and what was your driving force to come to or choose the career path that you're currently in?
Actually, to think of, I go back to my school days. I wanted to do a lot of debating. I wanted to become a lawyer.
Oh,
And
wow, that's a different career.
It was my
altogether.
mother who said, you know what, being a lawyer, you'll have to always tell lies. You have to defend people who have committed
a
crimes,
crime,
but
right.
then as it's your profession to defend them.
Yes.
So she kind of influenced me to become select medicine,
Right.
and I'm so glad that I did that. It's
And
such
I'm
a
sure they were
compassionate.
happy too
Yeah.
that you chose this path.
Yes, and then to continue the story, I came to United States.
When
in
did you come to the United States?
It's 1979.
Oh,
I came to the East-West Center. Now, East-West Center in Hawaii, as President Kennedy prophesied when he formulated this East-West Center, is to make it into a meeting place for professionals from the East and the West. And that is where, again, I met really famous characters, famous scholars like Professor Edirveera Sarath, who spent his last few days or it probably was one of his last assignments with the East-West Center. Then Professor Vimal Disanayake, who was also a professor of communication, and he still lives in Hawaii. And on the other hand, from the East, I met Professor Wilbur Schramm, and I took courses under him. He is considered as the father of modern communication studies.
Right.
And then I also met very famous individuals like Professor Rensis Likert. You have heard of the Likert scale, which is very much used so ubiquitously in social science research. So my life was enriched by meeting and studying with these individuals, and I of course did a master's in public health at the University of Hawaii.
Oh.
Then I went on to do doctorate with the School of Business and with the School of Public Health. And so I received my master's and doctoral degrees from here, from Hawaii, from USA. And then I went back to Sri Lanka. I served there for a couple of years, and this was the time of the 1980s. The internal political situation in the country was not very good, and then I came over to California, and I was, as I told you earlier, I was selected as a professor in the health science department. I became a professor, and I served there for almost 35 years.
yes. Okay. That's simply amazing. And I know you went through a lot of, did you go through like a lot of training before you started here in the United States? How did that work?
Yes, I did. Now, when I joined the faculty at California State University, I had my MD, but I could not practice.
Right.
Because they don't without the qualifications in the US, they don't let you practice. So while being, within the next 2 years, I was promoted to being a full professor, But while working as a full professor, I did the I did 2 residencies, one in family medicine and the other one in, I did the family medicine residency in Lubbock, Texas, and then I did another residency in occupational medicine at UC Irvine, and I became board certified in occupational medicine.
Okay.
And as far as I know, even up to date, I am the only American board certified occupational medicine who has worked in Sri Lanka, which I will talk to you about later.
Okay. Yeah, so that's simply impressive. And then we'd like to know a little bit more about that from you, if you can elaborate on that.
Yes. Now, let me tell you, as a professor at California State University in the Health Science Department, I had a tremendous leeway to work with many different countries, and I worked as I told you, I worked as a short-term consultant for the World Health Organization, World Bank, Asian Development Bank, United States Agency for International Development, and CARE International. I worked extensively in the South Pacific Commission, and I also held 2 adjunct professorships, one with the Ross University in the Caribbean, and also I was also a adjunct professor at the American University of the Caribbean.
Okay.
Now, with these positions, I had a tremendous opportunity for training. I brought a lot of Sri Lankans and trained them here in many different areas, particularly in public health, particularly in medical administration, and then I also trained a lot of graduates from other countries like India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and I must have trained at least a couple of thousand trainees, couple of thousand doctors in these areas.
Right.
And I was able to help them, and that is something that I really enjoyed.
Right, that sounds pretty rewarding. And did you bring these people all the way from Sri Lanka and train them?
Yes, I was also a examiner for the Postgraduate Institute of Medicine in Sri Lanka for community medicine. And many of them who completed their training, they have to come to a foreign country and do a specialized training in a foreign country for at least 1 year.
Okay.
So I brought many of those students and took them under my wing, and as I told you, I was also the medical director of the Metropolitan State Hospital in Norwalk.
Right.
And I had a special cottage where it's like a little bungalow in Sri Lanka, where these students come and stay, live there, cook, and I rotated them through many hospitals here in the US, and many of them went back and held very high positions, not only in Sri Lanka, but some of them joined international organizations like the World Health Organization, and they went and they really prospered in their career to become very high officials in these international organizations. And I could think of some right now.
Right.
Dr. Kumara Wickramasinghe, who is now the additional director for the Ministry of Health. He was one of my trainees who got trained here. Then I can think of Dr. Tushar Fernando, who got trained here. He was in the ministry, in the planning division. He later became a consultant for the employee of the World Health Organization. He was the country representative for many Asian countries, including Nepal, Bangladesh, and so I really took a lot of pride and joy in
your-
going back, visiting them.
Right. And they all keep in touch with you.
They did. Now, for example, the last assignment, just to give you an example, the last assignment that I did for the World Health Organization was to evaluate the whole vaccination program, the whole immunization program for Bangladesh.
Okay.
And that took me to various nooks and corners of Bangladesh.
Right.
And who were the people who joined me as I was the head of the team. And Dr. Tushara Frandu was representing, my trainee was representing the World Health Organization. And then the two other trainees two other team members I took, one of them was Hanan Obedi, who started as a undergraduate student. Then she became my graduate student. She became my colleague, and then she was one of my co-consultants.
Right.
Sounds like that, I really enjoyed maintaining contacts with them.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy going into some of these countries, working with them.
Right. So you said you have been pretty much stationed in over 12 countries, working around the globe. So how has that experience been, and what are some of the countries that you were actually stationed in?
I've worked extensively in Indonesia.
Okay.
I have worked in, I told you I have worked in Bangladesh, I have worked in Thailand, in India, and I have worked extensively in the Caribbean.
Right.
Working with the University of the Caribbean and the Ross University and some of those countries there. Then I used to have an assignment with the South Pacific Commission, where I worked with countries like Guam, Palau, Trak, and those are really beautiful countries.
Right.
And I still maintain contacts with some of those trainees that I have worked with.
Right.
And let me tell you one incident here. I was doing an assignment for World Bank, and I was training doctors in the remotest parts. And on my last day of training, I finished the training, and there was a doctor, I still remember, his name is Dirga. He was very, very tall. And Dr. Dirga invites me for dinner, and then as I was leaving, he reaches for a wood carving that is hanging on his living room. He takes it up, picks it up and said, "Dr. G, you can't say no to this. I am giving this to you for a very special reason." So I asked why. He said, this was in Bali, Indonesia.
Right.
In Bali, to become a wood carver, you have to do a master project to be christened as a wood carver.
Oh, I see.
So this kid, who was 9 years old, did this wood carving to be christened as a wood carver.
Wood carver.
He also had asthma, and Dr. Dirga has really saved his life.
Oh, okay.
And he said, he had told Dr. Dirga, "This is the most precious
Gift.
possession that I have,
Right.
and so I'm giving it to you." And Dirga said, "That is the most precious possession
That
I had, and I am going to
was
give it to you,
gifting.
and you are going to take care of it for the rest of your life."
How touching is that?
Yeah, so these are the things that I really enjoyed.
Right. Yeah, it's quite fascinating and quite rewarding. Your career, spanning for decades, and what you have done, how you have mentored all these people, and how you keep in touch with them throughout the years.
Yeah.
Right. So, what are some of the most unforgettable memories in your career?
Okay, now, again, I can talk for hours about it, but the most important part that I want to touch upon is the work that I have done on chronic kidney disease in Sri Lanka.
Right.
You know that starting in about around 1994-95, there was a strange kidney disease that affected mostly the farmers and in Anuradhapura, Poronaru area.
Okay.
And this was first detected by my friend Dr. Tilak Abesekara. And so this deaths, chronic kidney disease and deaths due to kidney disease continued to rise over the years, with about 20,000 deaths around 2012 or 2012. And then the director of health services, Dr. Sujata Senevira, the secretary to the Ministry of Health, Dr. Sujata Senaratna, who I also trained here,
Okay.
she called me and said, sir, will you come and investigate this epidemic?
Right.
So I went in, I reviewed all the literature and started looking at some of these patients, doing epidemiological study in Padavi Sripura in Sri Lanka. And at that time, that's the time I found Professor Dr. Channa Jayasumana. Now Channa was registered, you know that he became a state minister later on, but
Right.
Channa at that time was doing his PhD in the Kalaniya University, and for some strange reason his PhD was getting stalled in the Kalaniya University. So because he was studying this chronic kidney disease and the effect of some of the pesticides, particularly Roundup or glyphosate.
Right.
So I recruited Channa as my research assistant, and I got him to move his PhD from Kalaniya University to the Rajarata University, that is the center of all this kidney disease.
Right.
And I invited Channa to come and stay with me in my house here in Long Beach, and I got him into the university as a research scholar, and we started really analyzing samples of water, soil, urine from patients, and then looking at the data to see what is the culprit, what is the cause of this kidney disease.
Right. So you did extensive research on this area.
Yes, on the chronic kidney disease affecting the farmers. In Sri Lanka. And at the same time, we also found that the same disease exists in Central America, in Nicaragua, in El Salvador, Costa Rica,
more farming
and
lands.
at the other end of the globe.
Right.
But the reason being, there was no connection, geographical connection between Central America
And Sri Lanka.
or any other connection.
Right.
The only connection was that those people were also farmers.
Right.
And they not only, while the Sri Lankan farmers were rice paddy farmers, the people in Central America were cutting sugar cane.
Okay.
They were working in sugar cane farms.
Right.
So anyway, what we did was we analyzed the samples, and then we came up with this hypothesis to show that the cause of this kidney disease is glyphosate or Roundup. And we published this data in one of the most prestigious open source journals. It was peer reviewed, and actually, to tell you the truth, our lives completely changed from the day that we published that article. And we had lot of praise, fame, accolades
Right.
from many international activities.
Right. A lot
And-
of global recognition for you.
lot of global recognition. At the same time, we had a lot of harsh criticisms, lot of threats, and even threatening phone calls, and talking about even death threats.
So these came to you personally.
Yes, and I still remember one of the calls, and the call it was very short. He said, "Don't talk about glyphosate, don't write about glyphosate, your life is in danger." And then the person hung up.
Oh, wow.
So so we had so much of, overnight we became so famous. At the same time, there were a lot of people who were really gunning for us.
Yeah.
And then, just to tell you some of that article itself, that was published in 2000 itself, it became the nephrotoxic chemicals is glyphosate, the link between chronic kidney disease
and farming.
And farming. When we really published it, some people, for example, said there was a cardiologist from Richmond who, in his publication Truth Out, he said there were 3 authors for that article. This trio from Sri Lanka, in a study that paralleled famous Sherlock Holmes, these 3 people came up with a possible hypothesis for the chronic kidney disease to explain how chronic kidney disease happens in Sri Lanka. And then, of course, there were a lot of people who were really
Against your findings.
against our findings. I had 12 people from Sri Lanka who I didn't know from Adam, who wrote a petition to the university saying that I engaged in research misconduct, I mishandled the research samples. Fortunately for me, there was the other author of our article besides me and Channa was Mrs. Priyantha Sennayaka, and she collected the samples from the field in front with other individuals. She sealed it and mailed it to the California State University lab under the seal, undercover, and so they were very completely sealed until they were opened at the lab. This is what we call the chain of custody. The chain of custody of these samples were maintained from the time they collected until they were analyzed at the lab.
Complete.
So the research misconduct, I had to write a 34-page rebuttal to the university, and I was exonerated.
Right.
So there were so many other individuals who, that article itself had about 179 downloads at that time, about 170 citations, and 28 news channels reported the findings of our article. So anyway, things went. That year, I was selected this article, our project was selected as the best research project at California State University, Long Beach. I won the Research Accomplishment Award of the Year.
What an amazing achievement, right?
Yeah, and then the following year, and the news kind of flashed all over the world. The following year, the American Public Health Association awarded me with their highest award for occupational health and safety, the International Award, that is given to an individual who has done the most amount of work for the health and safety of workers outside of United States.
Right.
And then of course I brought together researchers from Central America, from Sri Lanka, others who were working on it, and that had a very productive session at the American Public Health Association sessions in 2016. And so we continued the work in spite of all the threats.
Right.
And then of course we wrote 5 other articles, myself and Dr. Channa, and showed that how glyphosate chelates or binds these heavy metals and in the tainted fertilizer. We used to get cheap fertilizer from countries like Morocco, Eastern Europe and all that, and these contained heavy metals,
right,
like cadmium, arsenic, strontium, all that. And so the glyphosate has the ability to bind or hold on to or chelate these metals, and they, because of the cascade irrigation system, the glyphosate that binds these heavy metals was draining down to the lowest areas in this cascade irrigation system in the paddy fields,
right,
and those are the villages where people had the highest rate of chronic kidney disease. Their wells were polluted with these heavy metals, and they were simply dying of chronic kidney disease.
Right.
So we went on like that, and then of course with those 5 articles, Dr. Channa Jayasumana was awarded his PhD, and he became one of the youngest professors in the medical profession to be promoted as a full professor with his research work.
Right.
So the research continued.
So with all the backlash, I mean, I know that it was sort of a rewarding experience for you as you found the cause of, what was causing all these kidney diseases amongst the farmers in Sri Lanka. But with all the backlash, how did you all continue the work?
Yes, the problem was that we found very little funding for our research, but we still managed to kind of scrap little bit of funding from here, little bit of funding from here, and we still continued. Then in 2019,
right, I
will tell you, I want to show you the trend of events. In 2019, the one of the students, Hanan Obedi, who I mentioned earlier, nominated me for the International Award of the American Association for the Award for the Scientific Responsibility and Freedom for the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And then they called me and said, we are going to give it to you. I said, no, I want to share this with Dr. Jayasumana, because without him I couldn't have done anything, and without me he couldn't have done anything.
Right. So
it was truly a joint effort.
Right.
So we were both given the awarded the award for scientific freedom and responsibility from the American Association for the Advancement of Science, which was considered as a very
Huge.
prestigious
Right.
award in 2019. And they made the announcement, as they made the announcement, in 2 days, after 2 days they made the announcement, they withdrew the award.
Oh, no.
Yes, they did. And they said because of the protests from the industry and scientists and individuals in the organization, we are taking steps to reassess our decision to give this award to Professor Gunatilake and Professor Jasumana. So we said fine, and they did, and then the whole international community
They got
was
together.
mainly the environmental activists were really up in arms against, and there were so many publications
Right.
that came out in our favor. And anyway, to cut a long story short, after a while they said, yeah, we have done the reassessment, and then they again gave the award back to us.
Right. And Doctor, so as you keep talking about this, and I know a lot of people would be watching us, watching you, youngsters, who are eager to learn more about your field and the kind of work that you have done, and I'd like to know, so there was so much of obstruction, but you kept going. So what was the motivation, and how would you put it, because back then, a few years ago, it was a little bit different, but what kept you going, and how did you know you were going to excel?
Yeah. Well, partly it's my attitude or my vision as a doctor.
Right.
As a doctor, I have to help my patients. But more than that, I came from a very small rural village, and there were so many of my people, my relatives, people who I knew who were engaged in farming, and I was really going back to my own roots.
Right.
And so, and having visited some of these people, it was a real, there was no
More of an emotional
there was no way of turning back
right,
to those people who are really suffering,
right,
and sacrificing their lives for chronic kidney disease to produce the rice that is the staple diet of all Sri Lankans.
Right. So you were dealing with them on a one-on-one basis at one point too?
Yes, I have been talking to them, and I have been listening to their stories, and when you listen to them,
right,
there's no way that you can turn your back on them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, that's a long story, but
right, it's a very touching and emotional story, but at the same time your perseverance, you were driven to obtain the results, and we are so proud of you today with what you have achieved. So I know the award that you mentioned wasn't just the only award that you have gotten in your life. You've been globally recognized. Do you remember, since it's such a lot, do you even remember some of the awards that you have got so far?
The other things include, I have been doing a lot of work in Long Beach and in the community. The Southern California
Right.
Public Health Association awarded me gave me the Ruth and Milton Rumer Award, that is given as a recognition for the community service.
Okay.
And then there were so many, I won so many other community service awards from the California State University, as well as the Sri Lankan government,
right,
for all the work that I did for training doctors, doing the work that I did for the Postgraduate Institute of Medicine, and the training that I did for the doctors here in Sri Lanka, bringing them over, providing them with accommodation, providing them with training and sending them back. They recognized my service. They gave a special award from the Sri Lanka Consulate,
Right.
that is with the government, with the blessings of the government, to recognize those services.
Yeah, I know it's a lot to keep in mind or remember, but you've also been recognized by the Sri Lanka Foundation for the amazing work you have done for
That's
us
right.
Sri Lankans, as well as the entire, the globe.
Yeah.
So you've been
yeah.
instrumental in a lot of things, doing all this research and.
Yeah, I also did a lot of work during the tsunami, and
Right.
that's
Yeah,
something
we've heard
that,
about that, so we would like to know a little bit more about it from you as well.
Yeah, during the tsunami, that I was that's 2004 Boxing Day, September 26th. I was scheduled to go down south.
So you were in Sri Lanka?
I was
You
in
have
Sri
gone.
Lanka. I was vacationing. I was scheduled to go to down south. We had a medical school get together in Kalutara,
Okay.
and unfortunately we had a wedding the previous night. We came home very late and overslept.
Oh.
Then when I switched the TV on at 9 o'clock, then here comes the news that there has been a tsunami.
Right.
Otherwise,
You would
I
have been
myself would have been a victim of the tsunami. And then Dr. Tushara Fernando, who I trained, who was working for WHO, was there then, and he called me and said, "Will you come to the Ministry of Health?" And then I went over there, and with another consultant, Dr. Shanti Mendis, three of us were on the spot appointed by WHO to go down to Galle, Mathura and Hambantota and
To assist the
take care of the disaster management situation.
Right.
And I was in charge of Hambantota. The other two consultants were in charge of Galle and Mathura.
Mathura.
So, but let me tell you, it's a very, because of some of the previous experiences we had with bomb blast and other things with this, we really managed that tsunami experience very well. And we managed most of those refugee camps.
Right.
And normally when you work in these refugee camps, the biggest problem you have is you have diarrhea, you have communicable diseases, because they are living in very close quarters.
Right.
And then they get eye infections, conjunctivitis. We were able to manage those refugee camps without a single event in the with a
Happening,
communicable
right.
disease.
So that's
And,
incredible.
and we had major problems.
Right.
There were no social workers in Sri Lanka at that
And
time.
I don't think we have the resources.
No
obviously.
other resources, and then no psychological resources. You know what? We got together. We trained.
People.
We had no social workers. We had no psychologists, but we trained Buddhist monks, Catholic priests, and Muslim imams as ad hoc
Right.
social workers, ad hoc psychological aids,
Right.
and they helped us to manage some of the psychosocial aspects of it, and became the conduit between the health services and the people who were
Right.
suffering from conditions like post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
I'm going to make it short, but this experience, this was a real nice experience, and I at that point said, this is done so well. Although we had 34,000 deaths, somebody needs to write it down so that when they have a disaster, they can refer to this and learn from what we have done. Actually, my son, who was a fourth-year medical student, was also with me, and
Oh.
so we got together and wrote everything about how we managed the tsunami experience in an article called The Sri Lanka Tsunami Experience. That probably was the only father and son authored article in disaster management.
Right.
But this was a very valuable article again,
right.
and we got so many citations and requests for reprints of this article because we cared to write it down and use that experience for training.
Right, because it was one of the most tragical disasters that Sri Lanka as a nation has ever experienced, I believe, right? So,
Yeah.
and you giving back to the community, being there at the time, and taking care of the people in need.
Yeah.
That's simply amazing, just to be able to.
I also took 17 students from California State University.
Oh.
I took them over to Sri Lanka immediately after the tsunami and worked with them in the refugee camps. And my students said, you know what, this is the best educational experience we ever had.
Because it's hands-on.
Yes,
right?
it's hands-on, and then some of them came back, and you know what, this month, last month actually, was the anniversary of the Hurricane Katrina.
Right.
And some of those students came back from Sri Lanka, and then Hurricane Katrina happened. And they went to New Orleans and Louisiana, and with the experience they have learned from Sri Lanka, they applied it here,
right.
and they became very helpful in managing Hurricane
Disaster in
Katrina.
their communities, and it's all going back to you, for your training and your mentorship.
Yeah, and then with that experience, I, with another faculty member, Dr. Veronica Costa Dupre, both of us developed about 14 training modules on disaster management to help people to do disaster management training. Particularly, that was the time that just after 9/11, when they had all these bioterrorism attacks and all that, in order to train people to manage bioterrorism consequences of these attacks and for disaster management, we developed 14 training modules, what they call tabletop exercises for CDC, Centers for Disease Control here.
Wow.
That is some of the other aspects or other areas of my expertise that I have contributed.
Right.
To,
how impressive.
To the experience from Sri Lanka, coming over to here to United States and helping out and using that experience to help individuals in disaster management here.
Correct. Yeah, that's very impressive. And so, Doctor, with all these knowledge that you have gained, your experiences, and everything that you have pretty much, seen and worked on throughout the years, what are some of your advices for maybe the younger generation, or for anyone for that matter, that's looking forward to trading into the medical arena? So what are some of your advices that you can share with them?
I have a lot of advice to give, but
I bet.
but I will break it into 3 areas.
Okay.
I will, for the youngsters, young children in Sri Lanka or elsewhere, I would like to give one advice, and that comes from the famous poem Rudyard Kipling's If. This is one of my favorite pieces of poetry.
Right.
And in that one, Rudyard Kipling, the father is advising the son, and it says, if you can walk with kings and still not lose the common touch. Now, I want to change it a little bit and say not if. When you walk with kings, please do not lose the common touch. That has been the theme of my life.
Right.
I started from a village that has no running water, no electricity. I used to walk barefooted across the paddy fields, and in order to get to the bus, I had to walk on the dusty road. So, after having reached where I am today,
Right.
I have not lost the common touch, and that is the message. And I want to give those youngsters the message: yes, you can walk with kings, but when you walk with kings, please don't lose the common touch. The second message that I want to give to middle-aged people who have accomplished a lot and who are kind of at the peak of their career, I want to tell those people, please, when you climb up to the top step of your ladder, look around. There will be others who are struggling hard to walk up their ladders. Look around to your right, and there will be somebody there. Give your right hand and pull that person up. Look around to the left,
Right.
and there will be somebody there. Pull that person up to the top step of the ladder. And don't expect anything in gratitude, but remind them, when you come up to the top, you need to help at least 2 other or many more people to come up their ladder, and to people who are not so fortunate as you, for them to come up the ladder and reach their highest potential. That is my message to middle-aged people.
Thank you so much.
Then there is another message to older people. And older people, I would say one thing. I would tell them, please don't retire. I'm 76 years old, and I'm still working.
You don't look that.
And then if you do you know the person who holds the Guinness Book of Records for the longest practice of medicine? It is a doctor by the name Howard Tucker. And Howard Tucker is 102 years old. He's a neurologist in Pennsylvania. He still practices medicine. So my advice to you as older people is, have a focus on life. Do not retire. If somebody forces you to retire, find something else to do. Third thing, have about your food. Eat fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, and fish. Third thing is about fitness. You need to move around, exercise your body, and also mental fitness is important, and that comes one of the most important instruments here is meditation. And the last thing I would say is, have fun with your family and friends. That is my message to all of you, and thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Doctor, for that very valuable guidance and your advices. And also, I want to say we thank you deeply for accepting our invitation and coming to our studio. We came to you from Walter J Studios here in Los Angeles. And thank you once again, Doctor, for sharing your knowledge and being here with us today.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
So as we come to a conclusion with today's program with Dr. Sarath Gunatilake, I strongly ask all of you to join us on Fin TV channel 31.7 if you are watching us from Los Angeles, California. And this is free to watch. You can watch it 24/7, anytime, anywhere. If you are outside of USA, you can watch us through LG TV, Apple TV, Samsung, Sony, Amazon, Roku or Hulu. We hope you all join with us. I'm Saji Pereira bidding you goodbye for today, and we hope to see you again on Sunday with LA Sunshine.